Hey everybody, how's it going? Let's talk about your home recording studio. Today we are going to look at a couple of compressors, and on the label of the box here, see, this came from Audioscape Engineering. So I've been anxiously awaiting these to show up. So I'm gonna get these boxes open, at least this first one here, and let's take a look at goodie number one here. All right, the box is too big to fit on camera here, but I at least wanted to show, like, this thing is very well packed in here. It's totally suspended away from the surface of the box in all three dimensions. The fellows at Audioscape have done a very good job getting this guy packed. And so, for goodie number one, let's take a look at this fella in all of its glory. And there we go. This is Audioscape's 76A, and this is their very faithful reproduction of the old 1176, the revision A. And my goodness, boy, it looks amazing. All right, let me get this thing set up in front of the camera here so we can both take a closer look. Oh, and things that came with the box. So we have the standard modular power supply. Looks like it came with a can koozie. Branded from Audioscape, and we got ourselves a sticker. And then we have kind of a quick start reference on one side. So this being a pretty faithful representation of the old 1176 compressor, it looks like it has the very familiar controls. Now, full disclosure, I've never used an actual 1176, so this is my first time touching a physical one that's not just a plug-in emulation. So if anything here differs from the original, you could kind of fool me. But let's start turning some knobs. So we have an input knob. So this is a fixed threshold kind of compressor, kind of like the distressor is, to where you're not adjusting the threshold stays the same, and instead you're adjusting the input. That knob's got a pretty nice feel to it and everything. It's got this kind of clear plastic disc with the position indicator on it. It looks like our input goes from 0 to infinity. I think that covers kind of all your bases there, doesn't it? All right, our other main big control here is an output control. Same kind of deal. Knob feels nice. Not a lot of like resistance, like it's not a stiff feeling knob at all. And these controls also go from 0 to infinity. All right. All right, we have another couple of kind of classic controls for compressors. We got an attack on top and a release on bottom. And this is kind of the big reason why an 1176 would be something you would reach for, is because its attack and release are extremely fast. Now these aren't labeled in any sort of unit, so I can't really tell specification-wise of what like the fastest and slowest attack are. And if I remember correctly, I think the knobs work in kind of a reverse direction than what you would think. So once I get this plugged in, I will have to play with it to kind of see, you know, is this the fastest attack or is that the fastest attack? I'll have to see. I'll put it in the middle. And same for the release, you know, so they're just labeled 1 through, I can't quite see from here, 1 through 7. That's kind of an odd representation of the full sweep of our attack, but 1 through 7 on attack and 1 through 7, it looks like, on release. Now, another familiar compressor control is going to be over here on our ratio, and we have buttons, individual buttons that represent different ratios. So if everything is out, so these buttons are either in, and it looks like if you press it, it doesn't release, but maybe if you just, yeah, you kind of lightly press another button, and that button pops out. So we have a 4-to-1, we have an 8-to-1, we have a 12-to-1, and we have a 20-to-1. For more like a limiter. Although some might argue that 12-to-1 is close to a limiter as well. And from what I understand, this also does kind of the famous trick. This is the compressor where it's got the kind of British mode trick to where supposedly you can press all the buttons in. Let me see. Yeah, so like all 4 buttons are in. And from reading on their website, I think that you can do combinations of, yeah, so I could do the 8 and the 4, which I would assume would give me 12-to-1. But I could do the 12 and the 8, which I, again, assume that would give me 20-to-1. Can I do like the 12 and 4 for a 16-to-1 maybe? Oh yeah, those stayed in. So, and over here on the very end, I can't see it very well, so let me turn it a little bit. So this is our meter. Oh, okay. So this is going to affect what our meter is going to show us back. So we can turn the meter off. We can set it to a +4 dB, a +8, or GR, I have to assume means gain reduction. So it's going to show us how much gain reduction we're getting. Very nice. All right, let's take a look at the back. All right, not a whole lot to see back here. So we just have our standard power plug. And other than that, we just have an input and an output. Now these are XLR. There's no TRS version of these inputs or outputs or anything. All right, other than that, I don't think there's really much to see. There is a little sticker with a note of, it says, please allow needle to warm up to 0, and then 0 adjust if needed. Maybe that's like a potentiometer in that little hole that we might be able to fiddle with. Okay, let me find a safe place to sit this thing temporarily, because I would like to get the other compressor out of its box before I get them plugged in. So, one moment. All right, and it looks like we got kind of the same case candy in this one. We got our power plug, we got a can koozie and a sticker, and we have the instruction sheet as well. So, okay, and dun, 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 dun. Look at this big fella. This big 3-unit monster. I have to back the camera up to get the whole thing in frame here. This is Audioscape's faithful reproduction of the LA2A compressor. So this big honking thing is an Opto compressor, as opposed to the 1176, which is a FET compressor. And again, I've never used a real LA2A, only some software emulations of them. So if this differs in any way, I mean, visually it looks very similar, right? Except I believe that they have an extra knob here. So let's take a look at the controls here. So we have a toggle switch that goes between compressing and limiting. So that is cool. We have what I believe is an addition over traditional LA2A, and what do they call this? I can't quite see it. HF, so high frequency. And I believe that this is a control that dials in how hard the high frequencies hit the compressor. Now we have a knob here labeled gain, and from here we're going from 0 to, what does that say? 100, 0 to 100. I have no idea what units that might be in. 100 decibels? That seems like a lot. So I'm guessing those are not decibels. We have our nice big meter here, and over here we have one called peak reduction. And again, it looks like this goes from 0 to 100, whatever those units may be. Yeah, see, these knobs feel very nice. I think these actually feel a little nicer. The potentiometers behind the knobs on this one feel a little nicer than on the 1176, or the 76A, I mean. All right, and over here we have a toggle, a 3-way toggle. And I take it that this is telling the meter what to show. So either output +10, output +4 all the way over here, or in the middle will show us gain reduction. Then we got a power switch. So kind of no frills, right? Just like the original, with the addition of an extra little kind of side chain into the detector. Around on the back, we have kind of the obvious thing, sticks out like a sore thumb, like almost literally. We have a big old transformer that was not put inside of the chassis, instead mounted outside of the chassis. And right here, these can be stereo linked. And so this is a little TRS jack to be able to couple this with a second unit, just like it, and you can operate them in stereo. And then we got the input and output, and same deal, these are XLR only, there's no TRS input or output here. As far as price goes, and let me go look it up to remind myself so I don't say this incorrectly. So $900 for the 76 and $1,100 for the Opto. I had decided that I wanted either an 1176 clone or an LA2A clone. And so I started shopping with the brands that you would probably associate with clones of these units. So Warm Audio, Clark Technic, Lindell. And as I started looking at those, I started to realize that at least for the 1176 clones, the kind of big drawback is that they don't seem to reproduce that extremely fast attack and release that the 1176 is famous for. And it really kind of soured me on wanting to buy one of those as a clone when it wasn't going to do the thing that makes you want to use that compressor, in those situations in the first place. And with the LA2A, their clones of those, there's just enough difference in the interest of cutting costs because the originals of both of these from Universal Audio or any of their ancestor brands that have made these units over the years, you're talking some pretty big money. I think UA's 1176 is probably in the $2,400, $2,500 range, and the LA2A current models are more in the $3,000, $3,500-ish range. I'm saying that off the top of my head. If I'm wrong, I'll put a little note here in text to correct myself. But the point being, they're pretty darn expensive units, and I can't quite bring myself to spend that much as just some guy in his basement. And so Audioscape, they have dedicated themselves to, as closely as possible, they're using, down to the point of using period correct, new old stock components inside. They are doing everything they can to actually mimic, to actually clone the way that the originals behaved. And that definitely got my attention. I'll put a link to their website down below and pay them a visit, man. One thing that I will note about the 76A, the cutting or whatever you call it, how they cut it, it's left it a little sharp. So the corners and the edges are a little sharp, which I've seen on a few of my rack mount pieces. So I would say be a little careful as you rack and unrack this thing, because it has the potential to maybe scratch up some of your other gear. The Opto, though, does not. It actually has, like, the corners are kind of rounded off. The faceplate is rounded off. Okay, enough talking about them and pointing at them. Let's plug them in, send some signal through them, and let's actually hear how they sound. Okay, so we got these two fellas powered up. They've had a little bit of time to warm up. Let me take a look straight on. It looks like the needle on this guy is pretty darn close. Looks like he may be just a little high. I'll have to figure out how to calibrate that guy. And so we're seeing gain reduction right now. Let's see if we look at output, does that just drop? Yeah, so that just drops to nothing. And of course, same for output plus 0, nothing. And so on this guy, let's do the same thing. So if I look at gain reduction, he's still showing -20. Do I have to give him a ratio? No. So maybe not until, oh, there he goes. Hey, look at that. So I give him a ratio, and then the needle goes up, and it looks like that's pretty spot on too. And then we go down to 0 if we try to monitor output, because there's no signal coming through it. So we'll go back to gain reduction. Click this guy to gain reduction. He just jumps right up. This has got a very fast needle. I had a project in mind that I was going to send a few of the tracks through these, but I just remembered I recorded a lot of those tracks with compression on the way in, and I would rather just put raw tracks through these just to, truly hear their character. So I'm going to take a break, and I'm just going to record just a simple project with maybe some drums, some bass guitar, maybe some acoustic guitar and vocal or something, just the 3 chords and a hurrah, and we'll send those tracks to these. So I am going to take a bit and go do that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I threw together just a really quick song. I can't say it's all that great or anything, but hopefully it'll at least give us something to illustrate these compressors. Let's start with the drums. And everything in this mix is sum to mono. The whole, like the master bus down here is sum to mono and everything. So this is just a mono mix. So this is a 4-mic drum setup. We've got a kick, a snare, an overhead, and a room mic. In the interest of time, I'm not going to go through both compressors on all of these, but what do you say we give a try to the Opto on the room mic and see if we can just kind of smash that room mic. So here is just the room. So, you know, nothing too special. I think there's a little bit of EQ on it to carve out some low end, and that's it. So let's click it over to reinsert, and that is going to just the Opto here. Let's dial it in and have a listen. Really crush it here. Let's flip it over to the limit. And let's play with the high frequency thing and see what that does. All right, yeah, that's pretty good. You know, that kind of mellow attack and release on it does a pretty good job. I kind of liked it with the high frequency dialed all the way up. It sounds like it's a side chain that is like a high pass or something. You know, as I dialed this all the way down, it sounded like the low frequencies weren't triggering the compressor. That's what it sounded like to me. Let's hear it one more time. Yeah, that's kind of what it sounds like to me. All right, and just as a overall drum compressor, let's send the whole drum bus, the mono drum bus, through the 76. And let's see what all we can do with that. All right, I'll stick with a 4-to-1 here. I have a feeling I'm probably gonna want, and what I realized is it's these that are kind of backwards from how you would think they would work. These, clockwise is more, counterclockwise is less. These, clockwise, that's going to be your fastest attack and your fastest release. And counterclockwise, that's going to be your slowest attack and slowest release. So let's try the slowest attack and the fastest release on the drum bus. Wow, some distortion, some low end kind of saturation on it. Let's really smush it at 20-to-1. Turn the output up. Then I'll switch it out. So that's dry, and much quieter. Let's back in. And at 4. I kind of like that 8-to-1. All right, well that's pretty cool. It definitely has some kind of saturation once you really start digging into it. That it made that kick drum just kind of sound thunderous. I think that's a pretty awesome sound. Let's play with the attack and the release just a little bit, and we'll move on to the next thing. All right, let's move on. And what's next? How about a bass guitar? Let's send a bass guitar through this. This is a bass guitar recorded direct and using this Ampeg amp sim, cab sim, whatever. So let's send a bass to the Opto, to the LA2A. And I guess first, let's just hear it dry. Okay, so let's send it here to the 2A. Let's get it off of the limit setting. And just in case, let's turn the gain down, see where we end up. Okay, all right. Not quite as dramatic on a bass, but it definitely does just kind of hold it all in place. That's very nice. Just out of curiosity, let's send a bass to this one. Let's see. Well, start with 4-to-1. Just give it a middle attack and middle release. Let's see where we end up. Okay, honestly, I liked that better than I thought. I had this kind of preconceived notion that bass was going to fit a lot better with the kind of mellow style of a LA2A. But honestly, I think that the 76 did a great job there of just, again, just holding it right in place, kind of taking those dynamics out of it. So a couple of those notes, and I'm not a great bass player, so just my control of dynamics when playing, not all that great. And so this just really grabbed it and held it in place without making it sound just too conspicuously compressed. All right, let's move on and let's have a listen on an acoustic guitar. Let me turn off re-insert, and on acoustic, we have, this is just a steel string dreadnought recorded with a large diaphragm condenser microphone. Got a little bit of EQ on it just to take some, roll off a lot of that low end that isn't really needed in the mix. So let's see what we end up with here. Again, yeah, I think I'll stick with the 4-to-1. Slow the release down a little bit. Let's go to kind of a middle attack here. And let's see where we end up. hey, that again, especially with the low end dialed out before I hit the compressor, it doesn't really sound pumpy, and that's a problem that I have a lot with acoustic guitar. That sounded actually pretty natural, and with a fast-ish attack and a pretty slow release. So an acoustic guitar, hey, not bad at all. I like it. And next, oh my goodness, we have some vocals. Again, I just slapped this together and the vocals were bad enough. Like I had to drag out Melodyne and try to start like pitch correcting some stuff. So hopefully focus on what the compressors are doing and not what the singer is doing. So what I ended up doing was going through both of them, going through the 76 first, with just a little bit of compression with a really fast attack and release, just to get like, 1 or 2 or 3 dB of gain reduction every once in a while to kind of get those big transient peaks out, and then feed it into the 2A as just kind of a overall leveling on top of that. So I guess first, let's just turn the peak reduction all the way down on this one. And first, let's dial this in. I think I'll, again, keep it at 4:1. And in this case, I probably want a fast attack and a fast release. And let's just dial it in so we just kind of occasionally catch some transients here.
I don't think I know how to eat, how to drink, and how to sleep below. What's that around your arm? It's a purslane farm.
And yeah, sorry, the vocal pitch is all over the place.
I don't wanna go, wanna go, wanna go. I don't wanna know, wanna know, wanna know.
Okay, now let's feed that into the 2A.
I don't wanna go, wanna go, wanna go. I don't wanna know, wanna know, wanna know.
Yeah, that's pretty good. That really is just leveling the whole thing out.
What do you need to grow? I only think I know.
Yeah, all right, I like it. So the 2A it's just so mellow and smooth. I really like how it can do just like the name says, a leveling amplifier. And this thing is doing a fantastic job of applying a substantial amount of gain reduction without sounding too conspicuous. That's awesome. And since I was playing with this last night, I did render out to an MP3 the whole thing, so each of those elements with these compressors, one or the other or both on them. So we can have a quick listen to the whole thing, I guess.
What do you need to grow? I only think I know how to eat, how to drink, and how to sleep below. What's that around your arm? It's a purslane farm. I don't wanna go, wanna go, wanna go. I don't wanna know, wanna know, wanna know everything about you.
Everything in that mix has one or both of these compressors on it, and in a mono space where you can't pan things out to kind of give them space. They're all crammed into the same kind of vertical stack of the frequency spectrum. These did a magnificent job of kind of making everything be able to stand out when it needs to. That's impressive. I am definitely impressed. And I know that this wasn't exactly the best, highest quality kind of demonstration of what these things can do. So maybe I can come back once I've had a little time to get familiar, had time to actually record some projects that aren't, done in an hour, with a little more thought put into them. But I hope that if you're interested in Audioscape, if you've been eyeing up these compressors or anything, if they've been on your radar, you've been thinking about them, there are a bunch of reviews and sound tests and everything out there. So hopefully this one kind of adds to the collection and helps give you some ammunition to decide whether or not these are going to be right for you in your home studio. Well, thank you all so much for watching. I really, really appreciate it. I think I'm going to go ahead and call it quits here for this time. Let us know down in the comments if you've played with these or if you're curious about them, if they're on your shopping list at all. And thank you all very much, and I'll talk to you again next time.